What's up? Brandon Lilly here. Got a question today sent in to lillytraining@yahoo.com. That's Lilly training@yahoo.com. You feel free to submit your questions there. I'll do my best to answer as many as I can. Today, the question that came through pissed me off. I get tired of this question. I get tired of hearing people talk about it. I've tried to make this video 3 or 4 times, and it ended up, sounding like a rap album because I was cussing so much. It pisses me off. The question is, how do I overcome my shitty genetics? Well, first of all, you stop bitching about your shitty genetics and you start working harder. It's not like some sport where there's limitations. You're not 5 feet tall trying to play in the NBA. What you are trying to do is achieve maximum amount of strength. If you want to say, oh, I had shitty genetics, well, I'm the motherfucker to talk to because I weighed 165 pounds. I was 5'11", 6 feet tall in high school when I started lifting weights. The very first time that I started to try lifting weights, I tried to bench press 95 pounds, which was the bar and a quarter, and it came straight down on my throat. And then later on, like the next week, I tried to squat 135 pounds, which is just a plate, and ended up falling to the floor and busting my nose. There were guys who were so far ahead of me, physique-wise, strength-wise, everything, and it pissed me off. I wanted to be stronger than them. I wanted to be better than them. They made fun of me. They laughed at how weak I was and stuff like that. So, oh, Brandon, I'm so sorry, Brandon, because my genetics aren't as good as those guys. I'll never be better than them. Boo fucking who. I went home. I started reading magazines. I started, looking up things that I could do in the gym, and I found a really good routine. It was just a simple 5x5 bodybuilding routine, and I stuck with it. I made a plan, and I stuck with it. And where are those guys now? They're overweight, fat, sitting on their couch, probably watching Wheel of Fortune. And the fact of the matter is, their genetics are way better than mine. They were shown an ability to build muscle and strength at an early age, but I was willing to outwork them. And in this sport, it's the guy who can do the most work over the greatest amount of time with the greatest amount of thought and a plan put in place that's going to come out on top. Now, what do you have if you have a guy like Dan Green, who's an excellent genetic, species, and then he also works hard and he also does everything right outside of the gym? Well, you get Dan Green. You get a guy who has world records with wraps, without wraps, in the 220 class and the 242 class. He can make a run at the top placing, as a 275. I'm very sure if he dedicated to that, he and Eric Lillibridge would be battling it out, because those two guys are two guys that they have it figured out. They have the genetic ability, and they have the goods in and out of the gym as well. Now, what does that mean for you? Well, you may not ever be a Dan Green, or you may not ever be an Eric Lillibridge, but one guy that stands out to me as a perfect example of wanting something, dedicating to something, and putting a plan in place is Stan Efferding. Before Stan Efferding was a bodybuilder or a power lifter, he was a successful businessman, so he understands how to use his brain. He set out to build a company, a small company. The small company grew. He made some smart decisions. The small company became a much larger company. He was able to profit on that and become a very successful businessman. And then he said, okay, what's the next challenge? What's up next? I want to be a professional bodybuilder. And that's not something that you just say. It's not like, oh, I've got this shitty physique and I want to be a pro bodybuilder. It's something that you have to plan for and dedicate to, and set out every single step in the way. And after he did that, he became a professional bodybuilder. I want to become a world record holder powerlifter. So, and you look at Stan, and I was there when he broke the world record at 275 with the 2303 total, and it was an amazing thing to see a man who had set a goal, who had worked his ass off to get there, and he broke the record. That's what he set out to do. So maybe the answer for you is, Mr. I don't have good genetics, is to raise the bar on your expectations and get off your ass and do something about it. You know, people look at me, oh, Brandon's really not made to deadlift. Brandon's really not made to bench press. Okay, my arms are short. I lock out my deadlift above my dick. So what? I'm going to have to pull against somebody who locks out at their kneecaps. That's the way it is. I can't change that fact, so why am I going to bitch about it? You know, the longer you spend bitching about it and making excuses for yourself, the less time you're going to have trying to be successful and overcome it. I mean, that's just the fact of the matter. And I'm not saying genetics don't play a part, so don't be some bitch and write down on the comment section about how genetics are this and genetics are that, and no amount of drugs and no amount of food and no amount of training and all that stuff can overcome genetics. I know genetics are important. I'm not ignorant. But what I'm saying is, if there are enough guys that have good genetics and they stop working, if you keep working, you'll catch up. It may take you 5 times, 10 times, 50 times as long to achieve what they achieve, but over a long enough timeline, you can surpass them. That's the reality of it. That's any excuse that you have. You know, like I said, I lock out above my dick when I deadlift. You know, whenever I'm bench pressing, I bench completely flat back to have a narrow grip. I wish to hell I could arch my back and have like a 3-inch range of motion like some guys have, but I'm not that guy. I'm just not. So am I going to sit there and bitch about it and feel sorry for myself, or am I going to try to get stronger? My answer is try to get stronger. I never accepted excuses for myself in the gym. I never accepted excuses for myself outside of the gym. And I'm just not a person who accepts excuse for people that want to get better. If you say you want to get better and you say you want to be the best, you're going to have to outwork the best, good genetics or not.